For the next 30-ish minutes, I'm going to go super in depth into how to solve pronoun questions on the SAT, which make up about 5% of our grammar questions, modifier questions, which is just when there's a grammar question but there's really long answer choices. These make up about 3% of our grammar questions, and plural and possessive questions, which is just when there's a bunch of different apostrophes in the answer choices. These make up about 3% of our grammar questions as well. Now, you notice these percentages aren't that much. Grammar questions themselves only make up about 25% of all of the reading and writing section. So when you take 3% times 25%, there's actually a good chance that you don't even see a single modifier question within 2 tests in a row. However, it's still really important that you know how to solve these. And after watching this video, these questions will be extremely easy for you. And you know exactly how to solve these the fastest way possible with 100% accuracy. And you should rewatch this video every couple of weeks or so just to make sure you still know how to solve these, because you will get ahead of all the students who lose points and waste time because they don't know exactly how to solve these less common grammar questions. Let's first go over pronoun questions. These questions are probably the easiest in the entire reading and writing section of the SAT. It's just pronouns. Like pretty much everyone knows pronouns. However, there are some things that trip a lot of people up, so I will go over those, and as well as like how I would solve pronoun questions. Okay, pronoun questions. Go figure, there's pronouns, right? So if you see pronouns, it's gonna be a pronoun question. Now, I've done a lot of research on this, and I can guarantee you the answer is going to be A or D. Okay, so if you see like pronoun questions, it's always going to be like a singular or plural version of the same word, kind of like single plural verbs questions, but then you have to pick between a single plural one. So you have to find the subject that this pronoun is referring to, just like single plural verb questions, and figure out if that subject is singular or plural, and then you pick accordingly. Okay, so we have to do that. Now, one thing to keep in mind for pronoun questions, which actually doesn't apply to this question, but one thing to keep in mind is the SAT is not friendly. Okay, I think we refer to people as they all the time, or we might refer to a dog as a they, like pretty much all the time, because like we don't want to hurt the dog's feelings, or like whatever. Like our society has started referring to like singular things as multiple things. So we refer to somebody as they all the time. Okay. However, on the SAT, unless it's actually multiple things, you cannot, I repeat, you cannot call it something plural. Like, for example, if it's a dog, you can't say they. Okay. On the SAT, you would get marked wrong if you said they. You have to call it an it. So if you ever see, like, especially like with like animals, if it talks about like an animal or something, make sure that you refer to it as singular. Unless there's actually multiple, like if there's an S at the end, then yeah, for sure, you can refer to it as they. But the only time you use plurals is if it's actually plural. Now these are also multiple, like different versions. So they, them, their, these. These are just plural versions. And then this is like the corresponding singular versions of those. So they, it, them, it's, and this. Okay. So you should be able to see like one of these, like either one of these two on every single pronoun question. You just have to be picking between one of these. So this is like the singular version of these, right? And it's is the singular version of their. Okay, hopefully this is making sense. So let's go solve that one pronoun question. Try solving this on your own first, actually, and then you can compare it to how I solve it, and that way it'll be more memorable for you. Okay, try solving that. Now, honestly, for pronoun questions, I would read the entire passage just to be sure. Because I think that if you just try to like skip around the passage and just like aim for the things that you're looking for, you can never be 100% certain that it's the correct answer. So I would read the entire passage actually just to be safe for pronoun questions. They're pretty easy. Like the passage is never going to be really long anyways. It should take just a few seconds to read it. I think it's worth the trade to guarantee you get 100% accuracy on these. So I would just read it. American poet Emily Dickinson wrote many of her poems on scraps of paper, but she also took steps to collect these works. Okay, so she collected and wrote a lot. From this, for example, okay, this is the example of her collecting these works, right? She's copied more than 800 of. So this is literally, it's just restating this part. Like she took steps to collect these works, and it's an example of the steps she took to collect these works, right? And this like copied more than 800 of what? The works, right? So the subject that the pronoun is referring to here is works. And works, there's an S there. That means it's plural. Because remember, nouns, if there's an S, that means it's plural. So you have to pick the plural answer choice. The answer is A. And that's it. Okay. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Now let's do another pronoun question. This. So you have to know the difference between there and it's and it. So I'll go over that real quick. Okay, so it's and its, as well as their and their. Okay, what's the difference? So the one with the apostrophe is gonna be a simplification of the word it is. Okay, or it could also be it has. Actually, I don't think I've ever seen it actually be it has, but just keep that in the back of your mind. Maybe it could be it has. It's like it's just like a contraction for it. It is what it has. Okay. So how do you solve this? Like for pronoun questions, I would literally just replace the blank with it is. Okay, just read it and see if it makes sense. If it does make sense, then there should be apostrophe there. If it doesn't, then it's gonna be this one. Because this is the exact same thing as this. So if you can replace the word with this, then it's gonna be that one. If that makes sense, okay? And same thing for this. This is actually a contraction of they are. I think it's pretty obvious that it is. It is missing the A right there. But yeah, so this is they are. I guess there's also your, and your. I've never seen this on the SAT. Maybe they test it, but this is you are obviously. Okay, but that's it. Okay. If you're curious on like what these are possessives, like something belongs to it, like its car. That means the car belongs to it, and we'll go into that in here. And just don't get this confused. I'm not going over this yet. We'll go over this like towards the end. But this apostrophe is different from the apostrophe for like these types of questions. Those are going to be possessive apostrophes. But for pronouns, when there's apostrophe there, it's not going to be possessive. Like that means like you can't. It's not going to like this doesn't work. Like the car doesn't belong to its because that's not how you spell its in this scenario. You have to do this. Okay, so possessive pronouns don't have the apostrophe. It's the opposite of like normal thing. So hopefully that didn't confuse you. If that did, just forget what I said. Okay, just think about it's being a contraction of it is. So try to replace it is with the blank and see if it works. Okay. Knowing that, let's try to solve this question. So pause this video, see if you can do it. Hopefully you solved this by now. Okay, I'm gonna read this real quick. So when they were first discovered, so to find categorizations that one scientist assigned them the name this, the animal which lays eggs but also nurses young with. So like we need to figure out what's nursing young. It's obviously the animal, right? So if you picked B, you would be wrong. Okay? Like I said before, it's the animal. Like the animal is what's nursing the young. Okay? The animal is singular. There's only one animal. There's no S here. If there was an S here, then it would be B. Okay? But the answer is C actually, because you can't put it like if I tried to put the animal which lays eggs but also nurses it is young with no that doesn't make sense. Okay, so it's just it's possessive because it's the young belongs to the animal. Okay, so that's why. And if that doesn't make sense, just like remember, just try to replace it is and see if that works. Okay, that's a pull down. It's pretty easy. Let's move on to modifier questions. Now, modifier questions look like this. Basically, it kind of looks like a reading comprehension question, but it's still grammar. Like we know it's grammar because first of all, it's going to be like between question 15 and 21 usually. Like around there. That's like usually what grammar questions are. But also, it says this conforms to the convention standard in English, so we know it's a grammar question. However, the answers are kind of long. Okay, so this is a modifier question. Actually, I'm gonna not do that one. Let's do this one. Yeah, let's do this one. Okay. So modify questions, your entire process, like what it's testing you on, is the idea that the modifier has to be right next to what it's modifying. So modifier is, if you watch my punctuation portion of the course, then you'll know that like additional information, right? Like if something's between commas, it's additional information about something. This is pretty much it. This is like the modifier is always going to be between the blank and the beginning of the sentence. So the beginning of the sentence to the blank, that's going to be where the modifier is. You just need to read this part. Like pretty much, I would say 99% of the time, all you need to do is read this part. And I'll show you the case where you don't have to, reading this part isn't good enough. But you just need to read this part. You just need to figure out what is it talking about? What is it adding additional information about? So like, what is it modifying? Okay, just figure out what it's talking about. And then you just need to pick what it's talking about and just make sure it's like right next to the modifier. So you just need to look at the first like subjects for each of the answer choices and just see, okay, so this is talking about something, so I'm just going to put that something at the beginning of the answer choice, and that's going to be good, because that's going to put the modifier right next to what's modifying. So you need to put like, this is modifying something, you need to put it right next to what it's modifying. Okay, so you need to find what it's modifying and put it as the first thing. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, so let's read this, try solving this. See if you can get this. I didn't go over like a trick that you need to keep in mind, so it's fine if you get this wrong. I just want to see. So hopefully you solved it. I'm gonna read this. First, all we're gonna do is just read from here to here, because that's what the modifier is. We need to figure out what is it modifying, or what is it talking about. So a coming of age story. Okay, but we know it's a story. That helps a lot. Social mediation, summer gaze into dark mall. Okay, so it's talking about a story, and then it's like a bunch of other stuff about the story. But let's just look for a story. Okay, Morocco, that's a place. Like if you don't know, that's like the place the author is from actually. So that's not a story. Okay. This is the author's name, author's debut novel. Okay, yeah, that's a story. So the one thing I want you to keep in mind is if you see an apostrophe, the subject's gonna be the next thing. It's gonna be this. It's not gonna. So you notice B and C both start with the author's last name, right? They both start with the author's last name. However, the subject for B is actually novel, the debut novel, and C is just like the author. It's themselves. Okay, it's the author, and this is the debut novel because this is actually saying the novel that belongs to the author. Like that's the subject. Okay, it's the novel itself that belongs to the author. So if you see an apostrophe like this, they trick you all the time with this. It's gonna be the thing right after the word of the apostrophe. Okay, and there's no apostrophe. It's just the word itself. Okay, this is just the author itself. This is the author's novel. So yeah, it's the novel is actually the subject. Because the novel is a story. The answer is probably B, and then obviously this. By the way, it has to be some kind of noun. Like publish is a verb, like you can just eliminate this right away. Like it has to be some kind of noun. Because like obviously when you're modifying something, like you can only modify like a thing, right? So it has to be a noun. Okay, so this is offer that like yeah, we're looking for a story, right? Obviously it's gonna be a novel. So the answer is B. Okay. Now I'll show you the case where just reading the modifier isn't gonna be good enough, but like pretty much that's it, okay? Like that's pretty much it. I'll show you also a strategy as well. Let's try this question. And I'm going to explain this question. So normally, by the way, if you see this, there's a good chance it's going to be both of these are wrong, by the way. Because they do the exact same. Notice there's no apostrophe here. No apostrophe here. So it's not like this person something. It's actually just like the same thing, right? Hilma F. Clint and Hilma F. Clint. Like that's the exact same thing. Okay, so if one of them's correct, then both of them are definitely like going to be correct then because they're the exact same thing, so they're both wrong. However, this actually isn't the case for this because you can just tell like the when you read it, it's going to be pretty obvious. But I would say most of the time, if you see two of the same thing, they're not going to be like the answer. I would just read just to make sure though, because this is like the one exception to that rule. But if they're the exact same thing, like they start with this, because they all it does is test you on this beginning modifier and then see if the modifier modifies what it's next to, and if what it's next to is like just two exact same things, and there has to be only one correct answer choice, then like both of them could be correct. Okay, I'm gonna read this. So, a groundbreaking visual artist of her day. So this is when you realize that okay, this doesn't actually work for this because obviously it's talking about a person, and I mean like a female, but like yeah, this is a person. Like this is not a person. Well, like that's definitely wrong. It's not even a noun. The explorations, that's not a person, so that's wrong. So it has to be A or B, right? So that's why you should read the modifier just in case. Don't just eliminate them right away. Okay. Now, how can it be that A and B are like both correct, right? There has to be one right answer choice. Yeah, you're correct. There has to be one right answer choice. Okay. This is a unique type of question. This is the only question I've seen. This is not in any of the Blue Book or any of the practice questions released by College Board, but I did see a question like this in a official test by like on the SAT, like an actual test, right? So I'm just like telling you to look out for this. Might have been an experimental question because it's the only one of its kind. I don't know, but just in case it does show up, I want you to be able to solve these. So if you get to a point where yeah, like you're stuck between two answers because they both have the subject in the correct place, you have to look at the ending modifier. Okay, because this is like actually another modifier. It's like a double there's like a modifier at the beginning of the sentence and a modifier at the end of the sentence. Okay, and then we need to read this, figure out what it's talking about, and then put what it's talking about right next to it. It's the exact same thing as this, but now it's like at the end too. Okay, so including artist, something, and something. So these are just like people, like multiple people, right? Artists, I guess, plural. So you just need to look for this. Okay, painting and contemporaries. It's going to be B. Contemporaries is like her I don't know, like her rivals at the time. I don't like other painters at the time of her I guess other artists at the time that she was living in. I'm not exactly sure, but like you can tell like this is like date. Obviously painting. If you didn't know what contemporaries means, obviously painting doesn't mean multiple people, right? So you have to pick this either way. So I think it's a pretty simple question, but like hopefully you get the idea. So in case this ever does happen, when you read the modifier and there's like two answer choices that seem to be both correct, look at the end of the blank, like from the end of the blank to this is like another modifier, and then put what it's talking about right next to it as well. So it's talking about contemporaries. So you put contemporaries at the very end. You don't put contemporaries. You don't put contemporaries here. You have to put it at the end because that's where it's talking about it. Okay, that's modifier questions. It should be extremely simple. All you have to do is just figure out what it's talking about. I will show you like common like mistakes people make. So when I say what is it talking about, you have to actually make sure it's what it's talking about. Like if I said passed down from grandma, okay, and I'm blank, and then there's like answer choices, and let's say answer choice A was uh the name of the grandma. I don't know, like Heather. Okay, let's say that's the name of the grandma, and then B, let's say techniques. Techniques. Okay, which one's the answer? Hopefully you didn't pick A. Oh wait, Heather should be capitalized. What am I thinking? Okay, yeah. Hopefully you didn't say A. Just because it mentions grandma, it doesn't mean that what it's talking about is grandma. Because you have to actually figure out what is it about, like what is it talking about? Something passed down from grandma. It's something that's passed down from grandma, not grandmother itself, okay? It's passed down. What can be passed down? Techniques. So the answer is actually B. Hopefully that makes sense. Now, like the majority of the time, modified questions will be solved using just verbs. Because like if it said like drawing water from a stream, it's like okay, so like a human draws water from a stream. Right? So you just need, I guess a machine can too, but you just like look for something that can draw. Like just look for the verb, and then just like figure out what can do the verb, like what can do that action, right? So drawing water is probably a human, so you just look for like the name of a human as the first thing in the answer choices, and that's it. That's the majority of these. These are pretty much always really easy. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Just make sure you completely understand the modifier and like have an idea of what it's modifying, and then just look for like that thing in the answer choices as the first like word, or if it's not the first word, maybe because there's like an apostrophe there, then look at like the next thing after the apostrophe. For example, like this. Okay. Let's go on to plural and possessive questions. These questions are also pretty easy if you know what to do. So if there was an apostrophe, like I mentioned before in the previous type of question, the modifier questions, the next thing means it belongs to the thing with the apostrophe. This is possessive. So for example, if I said novel's protagonist, right, that means the protagonist belongs to the novel. So that's what possessive. So if you see an apostrophe, this doesn't go for pronouns, right? If you see a pronoun, then the apostrophe means like it's a contraction of two words, like it is, right? But if you see it not on a pronoun, then it's gonna be whatever is the next thing. And I say next thing and not next word because it might have like a adjective here, like what it says novels fun protagonist. I don't know. Like fun doesn't belong to novel. I guess it could, but like it's the fun protagonist that belongs to the novel, at least in the specific context, right? So hopefully that makes sense. Like there could be an adjective here, but it's like the next thing. Just like in the novel, the debut novel thing, the debut was the yeah debut novel. Like that's an adjective. So it's not like the debut belongs to the author. Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like you can't like possess the word debut, right? But you can possess like a novel, like a debut novel. So this is the entire thing. So it's the same idea. So there could be an adjective. Okay, just wanted to like make that clear because it'd be kind of important. So now that we got here, let's talk about the processes, okay? And also like what do you need to know to solve these questions? The only thing you need to know is the difference between this and this. Like what's the difference? Okay. So I'm gonna use dog because I've been using dog. I don't know why I use dog all the time. Maybe I like dogs secretly. I never owned a dog. Okay. So dogs and dogs. So dogs and what's the difference basically? Hopefully you understand. So how I remember this and how like I teach it is just the unusual looking one, the one that looks weird. Because we're used to this one, right? This one looks weird. The unusual looking one is plural. They're both as long as there's an apostrophe. By the way, that means it's possessive. So that means like something like the next thing that comes after this belongs to the dog. Like dogs chew toy, for example. So the chew toy belongs to the dog. Okay, so this is they're both possessive. The only difference between these two is that this one is plural. The unusual looking one, the one that looks weird. So like the one with the apostrophe after the S looks weird to me. And I think it looks weird to everyone. That one is plural. So there's multiple dogs here that possess the chew toy. Okay. And this one's only one dog that possesses this chew toy. That's the only difference. And by the way, like, this isn't incorrect, by the way. Like you need to actually like read it and figure out like this is actually makes sense for this to possess a chew toy. Okay. Now, that's like what you should do first, by the way. I think the easiest way, the fastest way to solve plural and possessive questions is to first look at all the apostrophes. So find all the apostrophes. And by the way, it's really easy to recognize plural possessive questions because you just see apostrophes everywhere. That's pretty much it. Okay. So plural possessive, you look at the apostrophes and then you look at the next thing after the apostrophes, right? Here's the apostrophes, look at the next thing and see if it makes sense for that thing to be possessed by the thing with the apostrophe. Okay. It's like poems. And by the way, like a cool trick, this pretty much works all the time, is just see if the next thing is a noun or not. Notice putatively written. Written is a verb. That's an action. You can't possess it. You can only possess things, and things are nouns, right? So hopefully, as long as you know how to figure out what's a noun and what's not, you should be set. Like I've seen times where it was a noun that didn't make sense for it to be possessed, like something stupid. Like novels. I don't know, like novels pants. Like a novel doesn't have pants, right? Like it makes sense if it's like a human's pants, but like a novel maybe there's a pants in it, but it doesn't make sense for like a novel, like a book to have pants, like the book's pants, right? Or something like that. So like if it's really obvious that it can't possess that, then like you know it too, even though it's a noun. But most of the time, as long as the next word is a noun, it's like there should be apostrophe there. Okay, so that's how we can eliminate B and C right away. Actually, like a lot of the time, probably like half the time, you can get the answer right away just by doing that. So okay, does it make sense for this to possess that? Yes. Okay, and then the other ones like they don't make sense, and then that's the answer. Like the apostrophes aren't in the right place. Okay, but with this one, we can only eliminate A, B, and C because putatively written is a verb, right? It doesn't make sense for poems to possess an action. Also, if you see like a comma here, like that doesn't make like literally the next thing that includes punctuation. So if you see a comma here, that's wrong. Okay, the next thing immediately has to be a noun and it has to make sense for that noun to be possessed by that thing. Like there can't be any other punctuation. And so there can't be a comma, there can't be a period, there can't be like a like it actually yeah, there can't be a okay. Yeah, there can't be a it has to be like directly into the thing. Okay, there's like no like helping words at all. Like there can't be a of here either. Okay. So we eliminate B and C. Now we need to figure out A and D. Now remember I told you what the difference between A and D is. Hopefully you still know. See if you can remember. So A means there's only one novel, and D means there's multiple novels. So this is called plural and possessive, right? That means it's going to test you on two things. First of all, possessives, which is what we're gonna check first, because it's really easy to check for possessives. All you need to do is look at the next thing and see if it makes sense for it to be possessed. Okay, and then we're also there's a second part to this is plurals. So if you don't have to check for plurality, that's great. Like that's just the ideal scenario. You just possessives, it's like a 5-second question. You just oh yeah, it's not a noun, not a noun. That's a noun. That's the answer. Okay. However, sometimes you get into this situation where there's like two answer choices you have to pick between, and one of them singular, one is plural. Then you have to like check it. Okay. So to do this, you actually have to like read the passage and understand it to figure out, okay, is novel actually more than one thing? There's always going to be context clues, by the way. Don't just pick a plural answer choice because it sounds like it should be plural. Make sure you actually find specific evidence in the text that's plural. Just like for any other, like all of SAT, there's always objectively one right answer choice. So you have to look for that. Okay, let's look at this. Slam poet, debut novel, the winner of the so it's just talking about one novel, right? It's just one novel. It doesn't mention anything about other novels. Is composed. So it's talking about like what the novel is composed of. Purely written by the novels. Like it's just one novel. Okay, so we know for sure, like because it only mentions one novel. So that's like enough. That's context clues, and like only talking about one novel. It definitely would not make sense for like this to be plural. So we know 100% certainty the answer is actually A, and that's the answer. So just remember, plural possessives always check for the apostrophes first because that's extremely fast to do, and then you can check for plurality afterwards. Okay, and also it simplifies it because then I'm just between these two now. I don't need to worry about these at all. It's between these two. All I need to do is figure out is novel is plural, and then you can just check accordingly. You don't even need to figure out poems plural or not because we already eliminate these two. Okay, so just a quick recap. That's it, by the way. We went over everything. But as a quick recap, pronouns, remember not to assume that it's plural. Like if it's actually singular, you make sure it's it. Make sure you know the difference between it's and there and there. And then just a quick tip that it's always pretty much always actually like always it's gonna be between it and like this the singular plural like singular and plural version of the same word. Okay, and you just have to pick and to figure out what is the subject referring to and just pick that. Modifier questions, you just read from the beginning of the blank to the beginning of the sentence. Okay, so like it's a great pass down. So like where the blank is, just read it from the beginning of that sentence to the blank. Just figure out what is it talking about, and then just put what it's talking about at the beginning of the answer choice, and that's the answer. And just watch out for like apostrophe tricks. If this header is novel, then it's actually the novel that's the subject, and not header. Okay. And then there is the case where like if it's afterwards, but that's really rare. And you can just rewatch that portion if you forget about that. Okay, plural and possessives. Always check for possessives first, and then just like see if the next thing is a noun, and also make sure that it makes sense for it to be possessed as well. And then if that's not enough to get the answer, then you're gonna have to do a tiebreaker by actually reading the passage and figuring out, okay, is this plural or singular? And like which words accordingly. Okay, that is all of grammar on the SAT. If you went in order and you like watched the independent clause and like punctuation and then verbs and here, you made it to the end of grammar. You should now be able to solve every single grammar question ridiculously fast. And I will be posting like a demonstration video of me just like solving grammar questions in real time for the first time. At least like I won't remember the answers, so I'll just pick questions that I don't remember the answers to, so it would be pretty close, and then you get to see. So I would definitely do that. Okay, I would definitely watch that video. Just because you know how to do something doesn't mean you can actually do it. So those are two different types of knowledge. It's like two different skills. Okay, just knowing something does not translate into actually being able to do it. So you need to actually practice doing it. And what's important on grammar, like I don't even care if you get a grammar question wrong. Especially when you're just starting out. I care about if you know the process like the back of your hand. Okay, you have to be able to follow the process. Like for every single question in all of grammar, I taught you a specific process you have to follow to solve that question. And I want you to follow exactly that process to the letter. And like every single thought that goes through your head, like it's just that process. Okay, you're just going through the process from start to end. Like you always look at the answer choices first. That's super important. And the answer choices tell you what to do next. And you just, for example, like the possessive thing, we look at the answer choices first, and we figure out, okay, it's between A and D, and then all we need to do is just figure out, okay, all I need to do is just figure out if novel, was it novel? Yeah, if novel was single or plural. So we just, normally you would just read the passage first, and then go to the answer choices, and then go back to the passage, and then go back and forth, and waste lots of time. But with this process, if you look at the answer choices first, you can quickly just find the one thing you need to do and then just do it and just move on to the next question. It's so much faster this way. So these are genuinely, like I personally believe every single one of the processes is exactly how you can pretty much guarantee 100% accuracy and still solve the question as fast as possible. It's like perfectly that way. And I have proof of this. Like I have recordings of me doing practice tests for the first time, and like while I'm explaining the question, I'm still able to solve all the grammar questions within 2 minutes. So it's usually 6 grammar questions per module and 2 minutes. So I can't do math in my head. Let's flip that, okay? Because we're brain dead. Okay, so then we go. So what? 2 minutes. So that's 120 seconds. 6 minutes. So that's 20 seconds per question on average for me. And that's with me explaining everything. And I have like recordings of 3 different practices of me like doing for the first time, and pretty much always even like it actually my processes usually work better on the hard second module also. Like especially for the priority list, it has a higher chance of being correct, of like the first answers you check being the correct one, and the second module. Same thing for the verbs, it works better for the second module too. So like honestly, like the harder the question, the easier it is. At least for me, honestly. Like you should get to that point because it's like the easy question, like it's gonna be easy anyways. Okay, that's enough ranting. Hopefully you found this course helpful, and if you did, send it to your friend because that helps me as well.